Hey guys, so we're ending the summer and the garden is starting to slow down its production here lately, but one thing that's not slowing down is wasp, bees, and hornets. They're always bad in people's gardens, yards, around their houses, throughout their neighborhoods. But I'm going to show you a trick to get rid of every wasp, hornet, yellow jacket, and you won't see a nest, you won't see the yellow jackets in the ground, and you won't see one of those giant hornets nests hanging from a tree limb. This method works great, but there's one specific ingredient you have to use. There's a couple of tricks you need to use to make this system that will kill everyone in your neighborhood, every wasp, hornet, and yellow jacket, not every person. So let's go in the greenhouse and I'll show you exactly how to put this together. There's one quick thing I want to say about making this. This will not harm honeybees. So if you're worried about the honeybees being harmed, absolutely not. This is specifically geared towards wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets, which are three of the things that no one wants in their yard, at least not if they're highly allergic to them. So anyways, let me show you the exact things we need to use to put this system together. Now, one of the things I want to talk about in making this formula is that this is not one of the components of it. This is borax. It's not boric acid. It may contain some portion of boric acid, but what you need to order or pick up from your local store, if you can find it, I order it just from Amazon because it's so much easier and just arrives in my driveway, is pure granular boric acid. This is 99.9% pure. This is the key to making this work. Without this, you'll just be feeding them and prolonging their life. So remember, 99% pure boric acid. Now the first thing we're going to need is a way to mix it. So I've got one of my mason jars out, and we're going to take about 1/2 of 1 tablespoon, put it in a jar, and we're going to use about, and this is an exact measurement, but about 1 to 2 cups of what I like to use is real apple juice. Pure apple juice. It's not from concentrate, and I think it works better myself, but don't use anything like a citric acid. You want to use a sweet acid, something like a peach juice or an apple juice or anything like that, but not citric acid. So the next thing, we're going to mix this well. I'm going to make sure it doesn't leak on me. And just shake it and mix it very carefully. Now the other 2 ingredients I like to put in this trap, or this way of eliminating these, are bacon or bacon grease and some cantaloupe. I think cantaloupe works great because it's sweet, and yellow jackets absolutely will swarm this if you just leave it. If I leave this bowl sitting out in my garden, within a matter of hours, it'll just be covered with yellow jackets eating it. But this is one of the key components. So we have the boric acid, apple juice, cantaloupe, and some bacon. The bacon can be cooked or uncooked, either way, because that will attract yellow jackets as well. And also hornets and wasps will even get in on this. So that's one thing to remember. That's your 3 components. But first we need to design a very special type of trap. I'm using these empty water jugs, but we need to do something very special with them to make sure that they don't get trapped in here. This isn't a trap. This is a system to get rid of them out of your entire yard and even your neighborhood. So let's take a razor knife as soon as I find that, and I'll show you how to cut this. It's a very specific cut. Now there's a very specific cut. You can use a milk jug, but I like to use these because it's clear and I can tell how much liquid is in there, and once it starts to be depleted, I can add some more. But we need to cut a very specific window in this. It needs to be very narrow. We don't want birds or squirrels going in there and consuming this. It's not going to hurt them because the boric concentrate is very low in this. It's really going to be harmful to insects rather than mammals, but we just want to make sure we cut a very narrow window so nothing can get in here and deplete our juice. So just remember, use a nice pair of leather gloves. And another trick to cutting this, if you don't have whatever gloves and a really sharp razor blade, fill this up with water and put it in your freezer and freeze it, and it's a lot easier to cut it even if you have a dull razor blade. And unfortunately, this is not as sharp as I'd like it to be, so it may be a little difficult. Let's see if we can cut a window into this. But what we're doing is we're cutting a very narrow, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch window in the front of the jug. You can do the same thing on a milk jug, and that's what we're going to do before we add our product in there. There's one other thing we need to do, and that's we need to make this harder for animals to get to it, so if it's knocked over. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the top off and do one more little modification to our jug. Now we want to turn this into a hanging trap or hanging system. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a zip tie on the top of this. Okay, so we're going to put a zip tie on the top of this. And this is just going to be basically a hanger so we can get this up off the ground so any pets, animals, cats, dogs, raccoons, squirrels, possums don't get in here because I have all of the above. So we're just going to make it where we have a nice hanger. I say you can make it out of string, but it's more likely to fail at some point in the future, especially if you're reusing these. So just remember, this is your top that will keep it up off the ground. You can hang it from a tree, a gate, wherever up high, just away from animals that can get to it. And that's the next step in making our system that will get rid of all of these stinging friends we have in the yard. Now the next thing we're going to do, and by the way, you can keep this in your fridge if you make a larger batch of it. Just make sure you label it. This is not highly toxic to humans in the dosage that it's in, but I would still recommend that you label it, make sure that no one accidentally thinks it's just normal apple juice. But anyways, we're going to open up a little area here so we can pour in our apple juice. And the next thing I'm going to add is cantaloupe. And cantaloupe really will attract yellow jackets. If you've ever left cantaloupe at a picnic or out in the garden and allowed a piece of it to rotten, they will absolutely go crazy for this. So I'm just going to put about 3 or 4 pieces into our attractant. And you will be amazed at how many yellow jackets will be attracted to this. But again, we're not using this to kill the wasp hornets and yellow jackets. This is really more of a sneaky way of destroying the entire nest, and I'll explain to you why this is great to do in the fall, but it's even better in the springtime. I'll give you a quick second, and I'll tell you exactly what that means as soon as I use this device right here. Now the next thing I'm going to add is some of my microwave bacon, and I hate to waste a piece of bacon because I love bacon, but if you don't want to use bacon, if you're buying this black label bacon, if you can get it in your area, it sits on a little piece of paper. And so if you don't want to put a piece of bacon in your trap and waste it, if you're that addicted to bacon like I am, you can use this white piece after you microwaved it, cut it into a strip, and then put it in there. Just the smell of that protein and those greases, that will attract especially yellow jackets, but also hornets. So let's open this up and only sacrifice 1 piece of bacon to our trap. I'm going to try to pull that out of here. It's a little bit sticky. It's a little bit humid in here today. Put 1 piece of bacon into our trap. And if you're setting up multiple traps, you could cut the bacon in thirds and have 1/3 of a piece of bacon into each trap. Now, as I said before, this is not a trap. This is a very sneaky way of getting rid of your wasp hornets and yellow jackets. But we're going to take a hole punch, and this is kind of an unusual hole punch. It's a vertical hole punch. And I need to make 3 punches in here. And let's see, that's 1, 2. Let's see if we can get a 3rd one in there. I seem to be having a little bit of an issue getting the hole punch there. Now you're not absolutely having to use a hole punch like this. You can use a round hole punch, or you can do it by hand. You could use a drill. You could drill a hole in there. But what we're doing is we're creating a ladder for our friends to escape from this trap. Sounds crazy, but that's what we're doing. We're making it easy for them to get in the trap, eat what they want to eat, and then go back to the nest and take some of this special gift to the rest of the colony. Now you can use a shoestring or some twine like this. I'm just using ordinary garden twine. And what we're doing is we're making something that the wasps, bees, and hornets can climb out of this without being trapped. If they somehow get a little bit stuck in there, we want to make sure they have an easy exit. So we're going to take a piece of twine. I'm going to see if I can get this through the hole punch spot. Not easy because I'm doing this at an angle and I'm trying to make sure you can see it. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. We're going to flip it over and put the string into the trap. This is a ladder for our little friends that we're going to be tricking today. Let's see if I can do this the back way. I think it might be easier just coming from the back side. Okay, now we're going to flip that over. and put our little insect ladder down into the liquid. Make sure it's all the way into the liquid. And you're going to add 3 of these to make it easy for the wasps to climb their way out. If anything happens, they're not trapped. We want them to do the work for us. So another thing that's so important is, as I mentioned before, possums, raccoons, other type of wildlife at nighttime will come out. They'll smell the bacon, they'll smell the sweetness of the apple juice, and they will completely decimate your traps. You want to put this up high. I would say 6 foot or above. Hang it from something from the top and just make it hard for any type of nighttime wildlife to come out and get to it. So just remember, we're going to add 2 more of these strings to that, and then I'll explain to you what's happening. Okay, so this is our trap's basic design. I'm going to explain to you why the fall is a great time, because those larvae are multiplying, they're growing, but they're heavy feeders. They need a lot of food, and so the wasp, hornets, yellow jackets, they go out looking for food sources, and this right here is the ideal food source for them. They go in there, they get a little bit from themselves, and they take it back to the nest. And so that kills the entire colony of bees that are all working together to try to grow that nest. So just remember that you will eliminate wasp in a huge area. It could be your neighborhood. It could be half a mile to a mile from your house of all yellow jackets, wasps, and hornets that will be eliminated in the future. And hornets are one of the worst because their nests can get really big. A lot of people don't realize this, but they'll see yellow jackets going in and out of the ground. The hole may be the size of a dime or quarter American currency, and they're just going in and out, and you really don't realize, but there can be a nest underground. It can get up to the size of a basketball. So you can have hundreds and hundreds of yellow jackets in there that are just going back and forth, and they're just going out finding food and bringing it back to the colony for everybody. So this right here will kill them. It's, like I said, it's not highly toxic to pets. It's just enough boric acid in there, real boric acid, not the laundry detergent, that is toxic to them. It reacts with them, it will kill them. So just remember, you want to put it somewhere that it's not going to be disturbed other than for the insects. You've left that small gap in there that makes it harder for squirrels, birds, things that climb a lot, that will fly right up to it. Birds can't hardly get in there. And if you do have some really small birds in there, you can narrow the size down to maybe even to 1/4 of an inch. But you just want to make it easy for the bees and hornets and wasps to get in and out. Fall is a great time of the year to do this, but the #1 best time to do this is in springtime, when the days are getting warmer and you're above your last frost state, because the wasp, hornets, and yellow jackets, the queens are out looking to establish a nest, and when they feed off this, you'll kill them first, and you can eliminate thousands and thousands of future wasps and hornets and yellow jackets by stopping the queen from reproducing and starting a whole new nest. So just remember, springtime is the #1 best time to start making these traps and putting them out. Fall is #2, when the colonies are getting bigger and bigger, and you want to kill off that entire colony as quick as possible. Now, you can do this any time of year, midsummer, whenever, but keep an eye out for any nest, because I think you'll be surprised that the number of nests you see around your house will dramatically drop to 0 in no time at all. So again, just to reiterate the point of what this trap is, it is a feeding station. It's not a trap. I call it a trap. I'm misstating what it actually is. It's a feeding station for those types of 3 insects. And also ants. If ants get to this, it will be the same thing. They'll take it back to the colony and kill off the entire colony. But unfortunately, ants are not going to be going high up into tree limbs most of the time. Now, some tree ants do, but we're going to hang this where the squirrels can't get to it, because they may decide they want some of the cantaloupe. They probably won't touch the bacon at all. I don't believe I've ever heard of a squirrel being a meat eater. But anyways, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep it in a safe location and make sure that those bees and hornets and wasps will use this all throughout the season, especially in your garden when you're trying to keep them away. Now, as far as honeybees, they won't be attracted to this. There won't be any issues with honeybees, so you don't have to worry about killing them. They're going to be focusing on the flowers and pollinating them and getting the nectar from those. Now, if you're interested in seeing a trap that I made specifically for mosquitoes, I'll link that video right here. But we're going to take this out to the garden, and I'll show you exactly where I'm putting it. So guys, one of my favorite things to do is use one of these hooks. It's easy to put into wood. You can put it on a fence or anything else that I have. But I just hang it like that. It's really protected against high winds. If you're in a super high wind area, you can reduce the size of your zip tie to where it's very tight. Take your lid off. I'll show you real quick how to do that. You're basically just pulling. Let's go on a top hunt there. So we're just basically pulling it, and no matter how high the wind gets, you have a very tight fit there. And so it's going to be much less likely to be blown off. Let me see if I can reattach this. A little bit tricky there, but you're less likely to lose it in a tornadic event or a heavy windstorm if you live close to a beach area, which I know there's lots of hornets down on the Gulf Coast of America. But anyways, that's what we're doing. We're just making sure that no other animals can get into it, because not necessarily because it's going to harm them or hurt them, because we want to keep this liquid in there as long as possible and allow the yellow jackets, hornets, and wasps to come in, drink what they want, and take the rest back to the nest. And so you'll be surprised at how quickly this liquid will disappear. So you'll have to re-add additional liquid pretty often, maybe once every week and a half to 2 weeks. So guys, if you are having a problem with any of those 3 stinging insects, this will definitely reduce the population. Now, it may not happen instantly, but if you put enough of these traps out, if you have let's say you have a 1/4 acre yard and put 3 or 4 traps in that area in a period of 1 season, your wasp and hornet and yellow jacket population will plummet, and by the next season you'll be wondering what happened to all of them. But your honeybees will be safe and they'll still be pollinating all your produce. So guys, I wanted to say something specific about this video and all my previous videos. If you have a question and you want me to answer it, please be a public subscriber first. Subscribe publicly. If your subscription list is private on YouTube, I won't be able to see that you've asked a question. But if I get 500 to 1,000 questions a month, it's almost impossible for me to answer everything. And I want to give everybody the most honest, accurate answers I can give them. So if you are a public subscriber, you're a priority to me, and I really appreciate it. But every viewer is really important to me. So I just want to say thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you'll try these traps, because it really will help you, especially if you're highly allergic to any of those 3, yellow jackets, hornets, and wasps. It will really help reduce the population, eliminate it from your yard and probably your neighbors too. So you're doing a favor for them as well. Have a great day.